I wanted to read a poem that I had written especially for Reverend Tag. I wanted to read this poem that Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, it's called Transformation. I stand upon the white sand shore where water sighs and shining flows. Above the sky, darkness unfolds, and known and unknown stars glow. Within the firmament of dream, I seek a solace only distance holds. Time's mighty memory, secrets reveal. For life's journey, endless is a balance of will upon the wheel of light, where brightness is as second sight, an echo of all that is and all that shall be, is written in the eagle's flight that traces cloud, wingtips poise, a sign in the sky, mirrored by the dolphin's path that cleaves the sea. Humankind is one with all that lives, spirit manifests in wind's voice, that lifts in bird song into ancestral memory, and the precipice of change, earth life continues into eternity, taking the higher ground as the mountaintop whose spirit soars through the portal into eternity. I cannot weep for he who is gone, yet tears fall indeed, and through heaven's door we see a glimmer of the further shore. I cannot mourn, for in thankfulness by life's lessons are we baptized and blessed, casting off the bonds of earth, ascending the spiral pathway that becomes rebirth. Continual is life. It does not cease, but as day follows night, radiant sun arises in the east, illuminating all, and the breathing being is released, clothed once more in immortality, to feast at the banquet of peace, ascending into an infinity of light, uplifted and blessed with the absolution of freedom. Thank you.
I'm having a hard time walking.
No.
Yeah. This is all about Tag. And I really feel it. What a beautiful family he has. I got to know Tag the best working on the building here with a few other people, quite a few other people. But Tag was always here, always. And there were times when our crew thinned out. And those were precious times to me because I got sort of a one-on-one with him. Even if John was here, it was still more intimate. And when you're working alongside one another, you talk and you share and you get to know each other more intimately. This is a man that hugged me every time he saw me. And for those of you who know me, I can be a bit of an asshole. I would complain about this person or that person. He never would go down that road. He was always sensitive and kind. Probably one of the smartest guys I've ever met. And I pride myself in the experience I've had in my community. And the intelligence I have found in that community. Tag, smart as a whip. And he was studied. He wasn't just full of data. He also had a sense of wisdom, even though he could be a bit of an asshole. So he taught me a lot. And I love him. And that's really all I have to say. Is I wanted to let you all know that I got to be close to him in the last 3 or 4 years in a way that I really didn't realize. What a beautiful soul. And it's here. And I've come here in the last few days with a renewed sense of pushing forward, because this is who he is and who we are. And some days I don't mind. I think Kathy said it best. She called me and said, "How are you doing?" I couldn't really describe it. She could. She said, "Numb." I said, "Yep, that's the word." But there are other times that I walk through here and I smile. The best smile I had is shortly after his crossing over. Somebody set the pulpit up here and a few pieces of memorabilia, and they posted on the internet that they were sitting in Shiva. And I live right here in the park, so I'd drive by, and there was one day nobody was here. So I came out, it was one of his dumb little hats. I put it on, and I just started smiling. And so I know we all have those feelings, but let's all go home realizing what a beautiful, beautiful experience it was to have him in our lives.
Amen.
So it is.
I used to attend here regularly. Better? I used to attend here regularly, and Tag and Angelica asked me to teach peace education, which I'd done on Oahu quite a bit, and they gave me the Ordinary Hero Award, which I'm really grateful for. Tag, from a very small young girl, I had boys as my best friend. So I knew when I married a partner, that person needed to be my best friend. And I wanted relationships built on mutual respect. And it was kind of like that book, Are You My Mother? and not being an extrovert, not realizing, well, maybe I don't know what mutual respect looks like entirely. It's something you learn over time. So I was married for 22 years, got together with my husband when I was 17, and I went on a journey, and I tell the guys, I want to know you 5 years. 4 years would pass and go, and I really am a passionate person and felt a lot of pain and discomfort. And I would talk to Angelica, and I'd talk to Tag, and Tag listened without judgment, knew both people, both times, without judgment, and heard my feelings and my pain. Now, when a person is a minister and you leave their church, I went off to school, I had a scholarship with the Quakers. I became a Unitarian and a Buddhist. And I saw Tag last at a Bernie Sanders event. One of the reasons I left this church is because I'm dedicated to social change, and I'm very political. So when I told Tag, he got this big smile, like, perfect, because as an extrovert and an external processor, insight meditation is really good. And so I just wanted to say, instead of telling me, he showed me.
I got to know Reverend Tag a little bit better after my husband passed away in November. We didn't talk about it a lot, but just his presence and the kindness in his eyes meant very, very much to me. And I would come here and I would listen to him speak, and I told him one day, you know, it's like everything that I'm thinking about before I get here, you start talking about. How do you do that? And he smiled and said, collective consciousness, baby. And about 5 months after my husband passed, I fell very hard and broke my kneecap right in half. And Reverend Tag heard about it and actually called me at my home and asked me how I was doing. And I said, you know, I know everything happens for a reason. I know this happened for a reason. And I said, let me tell you something. That whole day, prior to breaking my knee, I broke it at about 6 o'clock in the evening. I'd been thinking to myself, you know, maybe I went back to work too soon after my husband passed. I feel like I need a break, God. I just need a break. And I'm thinking this all day long. I'm thinking, God, I need a break. I need a break. And he chuckled and said, You didn't hear the story I told? I said, no. He says, I walked around thinking that one day, and I broke my collarbone that day. And he said, you know, God does work in mysterious ways, and you did need a break. Maybe you didn't mean it to be that literal, but that time that you had to heal your knee is a time for you to heal in so many other ways. And you were probably right. You probably did try to go back to work too soon, and you were trying to put on a brave face and take on your normal life like nothing had happened, and that did happen for a reason. The last thing I wanted to say, as a singer and a musician, I think the universe, at least to me, speaks to me through song very often. Songs that I hear at certain moments in time, I really think about, why am I hearing that song right now, right here at this moment? And I got into the car this morning and I was thinking about Tag, and I was thinking about coming here. And the radio, as soon as I turned the engine, Bare Naked Ladies was playing Let Me Be Your Boomerang. And I listened to the words while I was driving here, and it just struck me again how something's going on here. The words said, I know you're probably meant to let me go, but let me be your boomerang. I'll come on back. I'll come on back. I'm coming in high, so I hope you catch me. I know you're meant to let me go, but I want to be your boomerang. Let me be your boomerang.
Aloha. I don't need a microphone. I'm pretty good at projecting. I knew Reverend Tag since 1980. I met him when I was in high school. Tag and he had a good way, he summed it up pretty well at our friend Tag's service, or our friend Ted's service, excuse me. He said, we were young adults who got together to play a children's game. So we were gamers, we played Dungeons and Dragons together for many years. Over my time with Tag, I got to know him on a much deeper level as a friend, as a mentor, and also as a co-worker. I came to trust him with my life. When we had a big quake back in '86, he had gotten several jobs resetting foundation blocks underneath houses. And he would work the jack, and I was quite small and little at that time. I would crawl underneath and reset the blocks, and then he would put the jack back down. So I can tell you, when you're in that situation, you become very close, and it's a working relationship that just shows you what a person is made of. And You know, I knew Tag as a carpenter. I knew him as a manager of several apartments and condos. And I can tell you that when he entered the ministry, he found his calling. He was at his happiest here. This was his home right here on this property. You know, over the years, he and I would talk away from the congregation. I was a sounding board for him on many things that he was thinking, that I was thinking. We were kind of on a spiritual path together, yet separate. He ended up serving in this venue here, which is very beautiful. I commend everyone who put the hard work into making this place. It is beautiful. The feeling here is of love, of compassion, of joy. And I'm very happy to be here today to speak about my friend Tag. You'll have to excuse me, I'm getting a little emotional, but I went another way. I serve our community. I move our rubbish every day. And let me tell you, one of the truths that you will find is you need to get rid of your trash. Whether it's outside in the world or whether it's in here, you need to get rid of it. I'm here to help. I just want to say, you know, someone earlier spoke about the thunderstorm after Tag died, and Tag was a Grateful Dead fanatic. He had actually toured around with the Grateful Dead not as a roadie, just as a follower. And he spoke to me several times about, you know, they would roll into a town and he would just pick up some work, whatever it was. He would pick it up for a couple days just so he could go to that concert that night. And you know what an amazing way to just put it out there, you know, to just say, hey, I'm going, whatever comes, I'm going to find my way with that. So he was an incredible individual in my life, and I think in a lot of others. To see all these faces here to honor him today makes me so proud that he was my friend, and more than my friend, he was my family and my brother. In the last few years, as brothers do, we had tended to go our separate ways, but every time we spoke, and it was said earlier, he would always greet you with a hug. That was his first thing. This man embodied love, forgiveness, and compassion. That's about all I got to say about my friend Tag. Thank you so much.
Aloha. I first met Reverend Tag when he was basically Angelica's husband, and knew him in that way at the services in the Hui at Paradise Park. And when Angelica decided to leave the church, there was a little bit of a transition going on. I know people were very sad and upset about her departure, and there was a lot of doubt about Reverend Tag being able to fill her shoes. And I know there was a kind of a departure for a while from the church of several people, myself included, because somehow his sermons just didn't get to me the way Reverend Angelica's did. And so I dropped in and out throughout the years. I also had many different spiritual paths that I followed, but I kept coming back to this church when I needed to stand in the light and hear other people's inspirational stories. And I noticed over the years that Reverend Tag, his oratorial skills really increased. And one time I came to church and I was just knocked off my shoes at his capacity to be passionate about what he was talking about and to have an emotional message the way Angelica did. And I really resonate with preaching with an emotional message that we can all relate to. And so I'm so grateful that I took that opportunity to express my appreciation to him and how much he had grown as a speaker and how he really held my love and attention. And I regret that I didn't spend more time getting to know him, because I can see by the slideshow and what people are sharing today, he was a great, fun-loving guy. And I am going to miss him. And wherever he is, I know he's having a great time.
Now
Tag, you're both going away.
Too funny. My two memories of Tag, early memories of him were there in the Hui, and this nervous little guy would stand up here and you would hear his word and calmness in his voice, and his hands were shaking. He was just shaking, and he pushed through, and it came through. And at that time too, I can remember when Jane left, I really didn't have a deep relationship with Tag at that point. But I went to Tag and I said, I'm with you, I support you. Whatever you do with this place, I'm behind you, I support you. And I've done that for almost 19 years now. And it's been a privilege to have his partnership and to have his friendship. I also knew Tag as the carpenter. I used to call him the monkey man. That guy could climb places and go up places. He helped me build my Ohana house that I lived in for a number of years while I rented out the main house as a vacation rental. My own little hobbit hollow, as it were. If only had a round door. We did have our arguments and our disagreements, and he was one of the most passionate people about argument, and one of them was about his diet. Always drinking Monster drinks, and if there was sugar around, it was in Tag. So I had a little philosophical difference in that kind of diet that I practiced in my life. So we had some fun arguments about that, but it was like, it was all that we knew that we were brothers, that we loved each other at the end. He was my pastor, he was my friend, I will miss him. And that's good. It's good to be missed. Because like we were saying earlier today, we don't go anywhere. As Auntie says, it's like all we do is change address. We just get a different zip code. And we just get rid of the HUV, the human recreational vehicle. And so he's good. We don't make him go away. Keep remembering him. Miss him. Mahalo. Hello. Mahalo.
God, what a beautiful soul you were.
Put the mic down.
Mike. Up, down. God, what a beautiful soul you were, Tag. I've known Tag since 2006, when he was meeting at the Hui. And then we moved over to the yoga center. And then later on to the senior center. And I was out of town for a while, came back, and Lonnie stood up and said, hey, we're gonna build a church. Who wants to help? And the hands shot up. And from then on, it's like, I felt like I was just Tag's shadow. But there's so much that Tag had to impart, it's difficult to remember a single incident because it just all ran together like waves. I do specifically remember one of his sermons. The very first sermon I heard that I remembered was the one about the marriage feast at Cana. Who remembers? Does anyone remember that sermon? Okay, I've heard it from him 3 times. And the way he could take a simple situation with stone bottles and water and turn it into wine and bring it to a higher level of consciousness was incredible. I won't repeat the sermon, but Tag knows it. And without getting wordy, I just want to share something. I had the privilege of sitting with Tag the Tuesday before he went into hospice. And we sat and we chewed the fat for a couple hours. told a few jokes, but the very, very first thing he said to me, he said, "John, I'm going through a miracle." He didn't see this as a tragedy or as an end, he saw it as a miracle. Something that I don't think any of us has experienced. And Tag was experiencing it, and the glow on his face was just totally lovely. And I'll never forget those words from him. I'm going through a miracle. Thank you, Tag.
Hi, I'm Julie Paul, and I had the privilege of beginning with this church 27 years ago, and 27 years ago, and I had the privilege of being in class with Reverend Tag, and he was the biblical scholar, and he brought so much to our ministerial classes, being that biblical scholar, that we would have never had the depth of teaching, even with Angelica and everybody that was in that class. We wouldn't have gone as deep and as far as we did without it. And I'd like to share a story. About a month ago, I went to Europe. And when I was in Europe, I knew that he had gotten sick, and I didn't know any diagnosis or anything at that point. And I went into a couple different churches, and one of the churches I went into was at the Vatican. It was the St. Peter's Basilica. And they have a door there that's called the Holy Door, and it's the pilgrimage door. And this year, Pope Francis declared a extraordinary jubilee for mercy. And so the door was open when I went there. And I realized that that door was open for Tag. And I walked through that door, and I saw Tag with my parents, who are both deceased. And I had a God moment, and there were thousands of people around me, and nobody knew. And it was like Kathy said, it's like there's a bubble. And you're in that bubble, and you're having that moment, and God is touching you. And God touched Tag and I, and he was with me that day on this journey through the Sistine Chapel, the Vatican, and the next day was the day that they were canonizing Mother Teresa. So it was a very special time, and I felt very privileged that Tag was walking that path with me that day. And I will never forget the depth of relationship that we shared and the God moment that we shared, and knowing that he is in his right and perfect place. And I feel very blessed by the relationship that I've had with Tag and being in class with him and sharing the ministry in the way that we did. Thank you all.
So I moved here, it'll be 8 years in December. And one of the reasons that I chose, there's many reasons I chose to move here, but why I chose to move here had to do with the fact that this church was here. Because I was moving from a place with a science church that I was involved in, and I didn't want to lose that. And so I thought of Hong Kong, I thought of other places, but it's a huge part of being here. And I'm so grateful for Tag and Kathy. I moved here right before you got your thing. I was like, oh, great, cool. This is awesome. Yeah, this is thing right away. Okay, I guess I'm doing stuff now. And I've been honored to be on the board for a number of years and work with Tag. And he's just so awesome. He's such a wonderful guy. And I appreciated so much that we had a lot of shared interests like science fiction and Star Trek and gaming and all that kind of stuff, like God, another minister that like that. There's a couple things I want to mention. One is about the lightning storm. I'm in a halau, and the Kumu in that halau talks about at least in the Hawaiian division, and I mean I get this completely accurate, so forgive me for that, but what she said is that whenever a very powerful soul is born or passes over, that there's always lightning and thunder. And so I was like, oh, it's a Tag thing. Okay, I mean, I'm sure there's other things too, but I was like, oh yeah, this is absolutely. Okay, I get that. So that I wanted to just share that. I also wanted to share, basically, sometimes it can feel like things happen really quickly, and it's like, especially with Tag's passing, like he was at one board meeting, and then the next board meeting he was already passed, yeah? But I will share a little bit of a quick story of that. I believe he had started the journey earlier. I do a lot of things, and one of them is pay attention to dreams, and he came to me, Garen passed away in the middle of May, I think it was. And the end of May, I had a dream. I was at a building party and all this kind of stuff, and there was a front door and then a door that went to another larger room. And I was sitting on the chair hanging out, and Tag came in and he said, I am like, with this, with Garen going and the state of the, politics, because I'm just done. And he came and he sat all the Science of Mind books on my lap and a copy of The Secret, the movie. He said, here, this is yours now. I'm done. And he walked into the other room. I was like, huh. Okay, and I've been wondering about him because I knew that he felt like he was going to be doing something. I was been watching him, and so I actually emailed him about it, like right after that, and I said, so, how are you? And he said, well, I have been thinking about making a change or possibly, leaving. He goes, but, I have so much of my self-identity tied up in being a minister, I just have no idea what I would do if I wasn't a minister. He goes, so I'm going to hang around, and I'm going to make, this is going to shift things, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, great. And so then when I found out, I was like, there you go. He actually started that process. I just share it because it was really helpful for me to know that, because it didn't hit me. It hits me hard because I don't like it when people leave, even though I know they're still around. He still talks. If you ever want to talk to him, just talk to him because he's everywhere. He's really right there. You have to ask him to stop talking actually sometimes. He's talking to me in the shower. I'm like, okay, I'm done now talking. I'm going to finish my shower. But just to know that it's a process, it really is, and it wasn't just like, oh, out of the blue, it could happen. No, it was actually, he bought his ticket early, and then he had a very elegant ending, and I was really grateful for how he did that. Thank you.